Hi class. Today we're continuing on with our unit on managing and leadership. So yesterday we talked about, or you worked on looking at different management theories, and today we're going to talk about some of the theories that are very important to current day management scenarios. So that's what we're going to look at today: management theories, then the knowledge economy. We're going to look at a case study of VW and Siemens Nixdorf, and we're going to look at fair process. So, yesterday's research should have revealed a few different things. And so, some of you were researching classical management theories. The classical management theories talking about what methodology will drive organizations to succeed and to prosper and to do very well. And so, usually, these classical theories talked about a few different things: structure, procedure, organization, etc., etc., etc. Right? And so, these theories exist in that time frame for a reason. Back when those theories were much more prevalent, was much more industrialized, much more specialization of labor, much more um, um, useful to be structurally, procedurally, and organizationally efficient, right? And that's what would create efficiencies in your organization, in your production methodology, and get better and faster and potentially more competitive. And so historically, those structures have worked best where our economies exist and where we want to go with the future of businesses. But things have changed. Times have changed. What we need from our workers has changed, right? Previously, in the more classical times, our workers were our functional units to create and to do things industrial, to build, to be assembly line workers, right? But the future of the world is not about our human laborers doing that, right? We have machines to do that kind of stuff. We have artificial intelligence that's going to do much more of that kind of work. And so now, what do we value? We value different types of things. And so, what is going to motivate those types of things? What theory is going to help us activate that in our employees, right? The behavioral managers are more likely to look at this. So they talk about relationships, they talk about desires, psychology, attitude. They're very different types of things, right? They're looking at what is going to motivate your individuals, what is going to keep your people with your company, what is going to help them share their ideas, collaborate together. What motivates them? What motivates them personally? Can I connect with them on an individual level, right? Do they want to be at work, right? And so behavioral managers are looking much more at those kinds of things, what's motivating our individuals this way, versus the classical managers who might not care much about the emotional or relational makeup of their people, but much more about their efficiency in terms of their ability to produce goods. And so this day and age, we're going to see a shift from the classical management system to the behavioral. And we're not talking about the last 5 years. We're talking about this shift that's been going on for a long time. Okay, and several companies have been on the forefront of that, and several companies are still lagging behind in terms of what they do. And a lot has to do with the type of work you do. Different types of work are going to require more classical versus more behavioral management systems. And so we're not talking about what's better, classical or behavioral, or what is kind of always right. It's just what system do you need for the type of employees you have and the type of work that you do. Okay, so it's very important to understand that. It's not right or wrong necessarily, it's more about utilizing the best technique possible. So understanding that, we want to look into what is a valuable resource, right? What are we using the best to accomplish our goals and tasks? What do we need for our businesses to operate and to thrive and to grow, right? And so many of you might think we need more resources in terms of like land, labor, capital, or we want more oil, we want more technology, whatever it may be. But I would suppose that it's knowledge. Okay, and so this is maybe a little bit abstract. What is this knowledge thing that you're talking about? And so we want to understand that human capital is our most productive asset and valuable resource today. And you might wonder, well, didn't you just say that machines are going to be doing the labor jobs and stuff like that? So yes, you're right. I'm not talking about the physical ability of our people to build something. I'm talking about the knowledge and the ideas and the collaboration and the creativity and the innovation of our people. That is what we need to use, that is what we need to harness, and that's what we need to have freely welcomed into our business, right? We need to create ideas, create knowledge that help us complete our tasks, complete our goals, and to help our company continue to grow. And so human capital is key in terms of that idea, right? Your entrepreneurial spirit, your creative idea. Because again, your physical ability in terms of your ability to lift a box is replaceable, is replaced, I can say, right? And so the knowledge economy is this piece, right? Your intellectual capital is so important, right? The brain power and the shared knowledge of your workforce is what's going to make your company grow, right? I want an ideas person. I want an execution person. I want someone who is going to collaborate, design, build, be creative with my company versus someone who's just going to punch a clock, get their work done, and leave. That's not the person that I necessarily want. I want the knowledge worker. I want someone whose brain power, whose mind is the critical asset, right? I can build the machine. I want someone who can design the machine to do the work versus doing the work themselves, right? I want someone to think of the better idea than to continue with the same old idea. And while this is not the same thing necessarily, I'm going to quote Bill Gates. Bill Gates says this, I choose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. And again, I'm not promoting that I want to find a lazy person, right? But I'm promoting the fact that I want someone who's going to be creative and who's going to be innovative and one who's going to try to find alternate solutions and new ideas to the same old problems, right? That's the worker that I want. That's the knowledge worker, okay? We need to understand that knowledge-based organizations are totally dependent on the commitment ideas of their employees, right? Your people are the ones who are going to push your company forward, right? Every leader of an organization has to be humble enough to know that they need their people, because they have to be humble enough to know that they don't have all the answers. They don't have all the ideas, right? Your fresh new engineers, they're the ones who are going to solve these new problems, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't need them. You don't have all the solutions yourself as the leader. Your people are vitally important to the growth of your organization, right? And so if these people are who you need to succeed, these people need to trust you, right? Because it's their ideas and their creativity and their knowledge that's going to spur your company forward. And so without trust in you as the management team, their motivation will be compromised, right? If you don't have credibility as a manager, they're less likely to share ideas with you. They're less likely to put their best foot forward for you because they don't know what you're going to do with their ideas. They don't know if they're going to steal your ideas. They don't know if they're going to get credit for their ideas. You need to be credible. You need to be trustworthy as a manager. This will be impacted by your decision making. This will be impacted by your integrity. Every worker and all the new organizational structures make it so much more important that they must trust you, right? In the old school methodology, when you were the owner of the factors of production, when you owned the assembly line, when you owned the factory, you have the workers come in, you pay them their paycheck, they punch a clock, they do their work for you. They don't need to trust you. They only need to trust that you're going to pay them. They'll come in, do their work, build their car, build the lamp, build whatever it is that they're building or doing, and they go home, right? That system's different now, right? Now you're hiring people, bringing them into offices, and they're doing work, knowledge-based work, idea-based work, solutions-based work for you, right? Again, it's not so easy to count how many things they built. They have to trust that you will take their ideas and use it for good solutions and give them the credit they deserve for it. And so I keep on talking about this credibility, this trust, right? How do you create that trust as a manager, right? Is it through the classical approach? Structures, very, very firm kind of structured ideas, organization, you have to be here at this time, all this very kind of like narrow-minded thing. Or is it behavioral, right? Developing relationships, right? Being open-minded, understanding what motivates people, right? So how do you build this trust from your employees? How do you, as a manager or a leader, make them trust you or hope they trust you? The first thing I'll talk about is fair process. Fair process is one very, very valuable way to build this trust. And so what is this? Fair process refers to a process by which decisions/outcomes have gone through the correct channels and procedures to be acceptable. Let me repeat that. Fair process refers to a process by which decisions and outcomes have gone through the correct channels and procedures to be acceptable. What does this mean? Okay, and I have invite participation there, and basically you're going to make decisions, make choices, do things in a way that's acceptable to all. Okay? And how do we do that? We do that by inviting participation. We are going to invite our people to be part of that process. Right? I've talked about this before in class, right? If I at the front make an overarching decision without consulting people, you have much more of a leg to stand on to not like it, right? But if I involve you in the process, and the process ends up in a decision, you're much more likely to accept it because you're involved in making the actual decision. Okay? People care as much about the fairness of the process as they do about the outcome, right? You care more, or at least as much, about how we came to the decision than you do about if your choice was made or taken, right? Even if you were on the wrong side of this, even if you wished something else happened, if you were consulted and everyone agreed to a certain point, or enough consultation happened, then you're going to be okay with what the outcome was, even if it's not the outcome that you actually wanted. So the question is it important for employees to believe in the decision you made? It's not even about the decision, it's about how you came to the decision. Employees will commit to a manager's decision even one they disagree with if they believe that the process the manager used to make the decision was fair. If they believe in how you made the decision, they're going to go along with it. Versus if they saw you make a decision, even if it was favorable to you, they might think, well, why'd they make that choice? That doesn't make any sense, or whatnot. And so maybe you don't believe me. So take a moment to pause the video. I want you to go to your reading, Managing in the Knowledge Economy, the PDF document that I've given you, and I want you to go to page 5. On page 5, there's a short story about two companies. It's titled Making Sense of Irrational Behavior at VW and Siemens Nixdorf. Okay? So take a moment, read those two stories, and then we'll come back to it. Right? Those two stories are going to show you the value of fair process. They're going to show you how one group of employees revolted against bad process, while another group of employees banded together and helped the company due to fair process. Right? There are countless examples in the real world that this actually works. Okay? So once you finish that reading, think about it a little bit and then come back to the video. So when a decision is made, what is important? We've talked about fair process. You've already read the stories of VW and Siemens Nixdorf, right? What was important to those two companies, or what was important to the employees of those companies, right? One company, gave the employees raises but didn't have fair process. Another company, lots of people were laid off, but they went through a large process to get back on track, right? So you have to figure out what was most important to these people, the outcome of what happened or the process by which it happened, right? So are we trying to manage outcomes, right? Controlling and motivating employees, or are we trying to manage process, ensuring that the process for the outcome was fair, right? And so classically, managers look at outcomes, right? They say, what's the best method to get my outcome to be this, to get the speed of my workers to increase, or whatever, to make more product, to make more money, essentially, right? So that makes sense. That's nothing's wrong with that, right? And then this process management determines, what methodology did I use to make this outcome happen, or what methodology did I use to make everything fair. And so, while outcome management is important, process management might be even more important, because if you can see, process management ensures the process of the outcome was fair, that's going to make your outcomes actually better. So managing for process is actually managing for outcomes. Okay? And so lots of things like ethics and corporate social responsibility have been a lot in the news the past, 10, 20 years, because companies are attracting employees who believe in the process by which they do things, right? And some employees don't care for that. Some employees will go to other companies not caring, but increasingly this is becoming more important for people, right? And the companies who are in the forefront of this are going to attract a more well-rounded, potentially better employee, theoretically, or at least someone who is more willing to go on this journey with you, right? And that's the employee you want. The employee you want is the one who believes in your standards of ethics and corporate social responsibility, that believes in your process, right? We must transition from a production-based to a knowledge-based economy. Remember, production-based economy, well, again, it matters significantly. We produce so many consumer goods, we just produce. But right now, we can basically produce everything, right? It's the idea right now that matters. It's the idea, the potential, the creativity that matters. So I just want to show you just a simple example of what I'm talking about. Again, it might not translate perfectly, but how production-based economies versus knowledge-based economies, how knowledge-based economies create so much more value. And so I'm going to show you a chart, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. So I want you to take a look at this chart for a moment and look at the companies. So we see Ford, Ferrari, Honda, GM, Daimler Chrysler, Volkswagen, Tesla, Toyota. So when we talk about production-based economy, we talk about production of automobiles in this scenario, right? Ford makes lots of automobiles, Honda makes lots of automobiles, GM makes lots of, Ferrari does as well, but Ford, Honda, GM, they make tons, Daimler makes tons, Volkswagen makes lots, Toyota makes tons, okay? Tesla makes lots of vehicles. Does anyone believe that Tesla makes more vehicles than Ford, Honda, or GM? Or even Volkswagen? Right? Production-based methodology, production-based ideas in terms of wealth and creating wealth, how is it possible that Tesla, as an idea, they're producing stuff, of course, but it's much more about potential, idea, belief in the company, belief in the potential of them to surpass all these other companies. They're worth more than all these car companies. Only Toyota's worth more as a car company, right? Does this make sense when Tesla is not selling as many cars as them? Right? It's the idea, the potential, what investors believe Tesla can do in the future, right? Not based on any massive production, not based on the fact that they're going to sell this many X cars. They believe in the future they'll sell more cars. They believe that in the future they're going to dominate this market, right? Even though all these other companies have electric vehicles too. But there's an idea, there's a methodology, there's a belief in Elon Musk that people have. So we need to keep on transitioning your thought process from production-based to knowledge-based. Again, you're young, and so your first jobs are going to be production-based, less about your creativity. But these are just skill-building jobs. When you're going into the future, you want to be able to think. You want to be able to give ideas, share ideas, be creative, collaborate. And so you want to be able to manage those types of people. And you want to be able to get the most out of those types of people. So the knowledge-based economy relies on innovation and invention from your employees. So we've established that. Your employees are the source of your wealth, right? Therefore, you need to invite participation. And these are concepts we've all talked about through communication. Invite participation from your people, right? Fair process builds trust and encourages creativity from workers, right? This fair process is going to invite people to work for you, invite people to share their ideas with you, right? You have an engineer in your company who has a great idea, a great hack, a great method to make this better, to push your company forward, right? If they don't trust you, they're not going to share the idea with you. They're going to go somewhere else to share that idea, right? And that's the idea you need to take your company to the next level, right? Individuals are most likely to trust and cooperate freely with systems, whether they themselves win or lose by those systems when fair process is observed. I'll repeat that. Individuals are most likely to trust and cooperate freely with systems, whether they themselves win or lose by those systems when fair process is observed. Right? They want fair process to happen. They want and are willing to participate in fair process, regardless of where it takes them, because they trust the process. Right? If you watch sports, you've heard trust the process, right? That's what we're talking about. Trust how the methodology is going to happen, right? So, for fair process to work, we need three main things to happen. 1, engagement. Communication, feedback, invite participation. You need to engage your people. They're not just your peons to work for you. You engage with them personally, you engage with them physically, you engage, connect with them, engage them in this process, engage them with the work. They need to feel like they're part of something. Involve individuals in the decisions that affect them, right? You should be asking their input. You should be wanting to know what they think about this, right? They are important to your decision making, or at least they should be. 2, better decisions will happen, right? You're an individual as a leader. You do not have all the right answers. If you involve more people, you have to understand that the more involvement with more people is likely to result in better decisions and better outcomes, right? So again, you want the best decision, you want the best idea, therefore do fair process. And even still, with the fair process, you're going to get more commitment from your people. So it's a win-win. There's no flaw in this. It just might take a little bit longer. 2, explanation. Your people must understand the decisions. Your people must understand the process, right? Everyone should understand why the decisions are made, right? Don't just make the decision and hope people get it. Even if your decision was sound, they should know and understand the decision. Because if they don't understand, they're going to doubt, right? You want them to trust what you're doing, and you want them to trust your intentions for them, right? They need to believe that you have their best interests at heart. And 3, expectation clarity, right? Your people need to know what's expected of them with this new decision, with this new idea. You need to communicate. See, all 3 of these things are about communication. Our last unit was all about communication. You need to be very clear with how you communicate and what you communicate and when you communicate it. What are the new expectations? Be clear. Understanding the new rules are more important than the new rules themselves. If you decide something, people have to understand what you've decided. If they don't understand the decision or what the expectations are, then what's the point? If they don't understand them, they can't do them. They can't abide by them. They can't live them. So, the 3 principles of fair process, understanding what they are engagement, explanation, and expectation clarity. Make sure you do these 3 things when you are doing fair process, so people know what's happening and what they need to do, how they need to respond to these decisions. Okay? So, a few things about fair process that we need to be clear about. 1, fair process pursues the best ideas, whether they're put forth by one or by many people. Okay? That's what you should be doing. That's the whole point of fair process. You want people to be involved and you want them to share ideas. Okay? And so you'll take the best ideas and run with them. However, it's important for your people to understand that this process is trying to get as many good ideas as possible, right? But it's not about getting consensus, right? Understand that your people might be overruled. You still have the last say. You still are the leader. You still are the individual who's going to make the choice. But if they believe that their decisions or your decisions are going to be made by merit and not consensus, if the merit is there, then they'll still trust you, even if you disagree with them. Okay? You'll fairly judge and consider all ideas. You need to do that. Otherwise, what's the point again? If you don't fairly consider all ideas, that's going to destroy trust. Right? A good idea can come forward, you won't even consider it. Even though you say you'll hear it, they have to believe you've considered it and judged it fairly. It is not democracy. Like I said, decisions will be driven by merit, not consensus. Your whole company can decide and choose and think one thing, but it might not be the right idea. And again, as the leader, you have the decision making, you have the responsibility to drive the best ideas that come from your people. So that's the first part of the lesson on fair process. Please make sure you really reflect on these ideas. These ideas are hugely important in terms of organizational structure and leading companies into the future. Right? Too many companies are sitting back there not doing this kind of stuff, and they are going to fail. They are going to die. They are not going to enter a new area of the world. Right? So what I want you to do, I want you to read. Read through this document, Fair Process, Managing in the Knowledge Economy. Some of it can be a little bit heavier. These readings are good. They might take a bit of time, but take your time to sit through it and work through it. And thank you.